12 days. We have 12 days until January 20th, 2025, when Donald Trump puts his hand on, I'm sure, a steaming hot Bible and becomes the 47th president of the United States. And folks, let me just say to you that I already feel stupider. The conversations that Donald Trump is having with the little men inside of his head with regard to Panama and Greenland is beyond insane. 12 days and then 4 long fucking years. Buckle up, friends, because I don't know where this is headed, but it doesn't feel like it's headed anywhere good. Welcome, damnation. It's time for the Danielle Moodie Show. And I know that folks are saying, Danielle, it could be longer than 4 years. Oh, I'm aware. 4 years is our starting point in this idiocracy that we are now going to live under. And I have to tell you that today, of all days, as I am watching, as many of you are, the fires that are raging in LA and thinking about how Joe Biden has provided emergency aid and FEMA protection and all of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The fires have eaten away at thousands of acres. 80,000 Americans have been evacuated. So far, at the time of this show, 2 people have been killed. But when you're looking at these pictures of absolute devastation, it's amazing to me that more people have not been killed. I mean, look at these images, folks. There is no way that a person with an actual heart, an actual ability to have empathy, looks at this and thinks to themselves, oh, we're totally okay. This is their fault. This is Democrats' fault. As if the fire gives a fuck about your partisan particulars. It does not. And there was something that was said today on Blue Sky that I wanted to bring up because I said to myself, man, this is kind of one of these moments where gratitude, living in gratitude, and I don't mean just saying the word gratitude, but actually living in gratitude. If you are not in the fire's path, or anybody that you love or know is in the fire's path, Ethan Jacobs on Blue Sky posted this. LA fires are a good reminder that the only difference between me and any refugee is luck. That the only difference between me and any refugee, he writes, is luck. And my response to that was, this is why it is so important to sit in gratitude on a daily basis. Everything can be lost in the blink of an eye. That's what these people are dealing with, right? Folks will say, well, if you see a tornado in the middle of the country, well, why do they live there? You see a hurricane in the southern part of the country. Why do they live there? You see fires. Folks, climate change is not something that we are going to be able to escape. And one of the largest insurers, State Farm, has pulled out of insuring the Palisades area of California. They pulled out last year. Just like major insurers have pulled out of Louisiana, have pulled out of Florida. As climate change rages on, you're basically buying a home, renting a home at your own fucking risk, because much like we saw with the hurricane that devastated the mountain areas of North Carolina, nowhere is actually safe. And it is just, when I look at this and I see the wildfires raging through LA, thousands are fleeing their homes. I've contacted my friends that are in LA. Are you okay? So I implore all of you, if you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, to reach out and ask if folks are okay, because even if they are not directly in the fire's path at this moment, the amount of smoke, and again, it is not just fire smoke like from a fireplace, folks. It is carcinogens that are being released into the air because of all of the things that can go up in flames inside of a home, inside of a building. That's what's going into the air. So, you would think, right, as you're seeing these images, and on top of this absolutely insane fire that is raging, the winds, do you see this here? The highest wind gusts reported so far are equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane with speeds of up to 99 miles per hour in Altadena. If you are a person that believes in the Bible, like, I don't understand. Like, what are we waiting on? Locusts at this point? Like, what are we waiting on? A Category 2 hurricane on top of raging fire 12 days before Donald Trump is going to become the president of the United States again. If this is not the universe, if this is not, like, again, be very wide-eyed about this moment. Be very wide-eyed about this moment, because it is a precursor to what is to come. I am absolutely taken aback. And you would think to yourself, well, self, I wonder what the incoming president of the United States would say, as we are learning about, there are at least 4 separate blazes were burning in the metropolitan area from the Pacific Coast inland to Pasadena, home of the famed Rose Parade. With thousands of firefighters already battling the flames, the Los Angeles Fire Department put out a plea for off-duty firefighters to help. Weather conditions were too windy for firefighting aircraft to fly, further hampering the fight. Fire officials said they hope to get the flights up later on Wednesday. So what is it that an incoming president of the United States would be saying at this moment? Any takers? Any takers on what you think that Donald Trump has decided to say today on his broke down social media platform? Well, let me tell you. Governor Gavin Newsom. This is because this is the incoming toddler in chief. Refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is to blame for this. On top of it all, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes. A true disaster. So he offered assurance. He offered empathy. He offered his plans to help the people of California. Nope. And just so we're clear, what he's talking about in terms of the issue with regard to bringing in excess rainwater and snowmelt from the north and saying that, oh, Gavin Newsom hasn't done anything about that. Is that right? Are we sure he hasn't done anything about that? Are we 100% sure Donald Trump is up to date on all the policies that were passed last month, in fact? Well, here you go. State and federal water officials announced today, and this was last month, their long-awaited new rules for operating two massive water delivery systems that serve 30 million Californians and much of the state's farmland. The rules will oversee operations of the State Water Project and Federal Central Valley Project, which carry water from Northern California rivers south to San Joaquin Valley, farmers, Los Angeles area residents, and many other water users in the southern half of the state. Deliveries will increase for major urban water suppliers and many farms, while they'll be cut for some farmers. Schedules for releasing water from Lake Shasta, the state's largest reservoir, will be revised. Oh, so Donald Trump was wrong? You mean he was truthing without all the information? You mean that instead of being a, what is the word? I'm losing it. Adult, and offering his condolences and saying that when he comes into office that he's ready to hit the ground running in order to help the people of California and ensure that future disasters will be mitigated? Nope. That's not any of the things that came out of Donald Trump's mouth. And if we remember, in his first disastrous term as president, remind you that Donald Trump withheld FEMA funding from places like North Carolina and California because he needed to see the breakdown of who voted for him before he released emergency aid to states that are blue that have been impacted by climate disasters. So the president of the United States that is coming in 12 days, back in 2017, needed to see the breakdown of how these people voted for him in blue states before he provided them with aid. I cannot, folks, I am struggling on this Good Wednesday, wrapping my mind around the fact that Donald Trump was reelected. I am struggling to believe that the American public, with everything that we fucking went through, the man that told Americans during a global health pandemic to inject bleach, that this man is now, as we are not only dealing with these deadly wildfires, the fucking first death of the bird flu, which happened in Louisiana. You have, I don't know how many times oysters have been recalled in the last month. We have crisis after crisis after crisis happening right now. And in 12 days, Donald Trump is going to be president again. I don't think that we even understand, can wrap our minds around. And folks, you know me. I am genuinely trying to be hopeful. But today I am going to say I don't think that people understand just how fucked we really are. I really don't. I mean, the devastation, the loss of life that is going to happen because of Donald Trump's idiocy, his incompetence, and his grave depravity. We really don't get it. And mind you, as I work through what to do with putting the show together today, I'm going through the news and, like, let me tell you something. Coming back from the holiday to go back into the news is like drinking from a fire hose that's filled with acid. That's what this week has felt like. Because every fucking headline is just one disaster after the other. And all I keep thinking of is, oh my God, he hasn't even started yet. He hasn't even started yet. And this is where we are. How? How did Americans let this happen? This is where I am today, really struggling with how, in God's name, did millions of people vote for this man and think that he is going to do anything about the price of their eggs or the price of their gas. But let me tell you something. We're not the only ones that are worried. We're not the only ones that are concerned, because this is a headline from today as well. European leaders are already sick of Trump. France's foreign minister warned Trump to stop talking about annexing and invading Greenland. What? Here we go. France is warning Donald Trump. France, folks, you know, our ally is warning Donald Trump against attempting to annex Greenland, saying that the European Union would not, quote, let other nations in the world, whoever they might be, attack its sovereign borders. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot made the statement to public radio broadcaster France Inter on Wednesday, adding that he doesn't expect Trump to invade the autonomous Danish territory. However, Barrot added that the world is witnessing a return of the law of the strongest. Y'all, if you think that it can't get worse, it can.
Trump was asked if he'd rule out using military force to get control of Greenland and the Panama Canal, and Trump would not rule that out. How would acquiring that land help everyday Americans better afford their day-to-day expenses?
Well, first of all, Brianna, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Listen, President Trump is bringing us into a golden age of America. This is the new manifest destiny, reacquiring the Panama Canal, acquiring Greenland, renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This is the light of America expanding. You know, we have a very clear strategic interest geopolitically, both in Greenland and in the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, as you know, was created with the blood, toil, tears, and sweat of American citizens. We put an enormous amount of money into it. I don't think we ever should have relinquished control of the Panama Canal. So President Trump...
These idiots are now going on television to talk about a golden age of manifest destiny in America. That these countries, sovereign nations, that Donald Trump is talking about. This is what they mean by make America great again. When Donald Trump was asked at a presser today whether or not he would use force, because, Greenland has said, as well as Panama, we're not for fucking sale. Donald Trump refused to say, well, I would never use force. It's just, if they want to, what world are we living? What time frame are we living in, folks? We're back to colonizing? But of course, we have Donald Trump and then President-elect Musk, who is from apartheid South Africa. So, all they know is take. That's the thing here. All they know is take and extraction. But he goes on.
There's a Democrat Party that is more interested in advancing the interests of criminal illegal aliens on American territory committing crimes against American citizens than they are in advancing the interests of this nation. I find that utterly repugnant, and that is something President Trump is going to fix. And listen, I think that the people of Panama, I think that the people of Greenland, I think that the people of Canada, for that matter, should be honored that President Trump wants to bring these territories in under the American fold.
Okay, they don't seem honored, just to be clear, but I do want to ask you, because of this.
They don't seem honored. Well, that's the understatement of the fucking year. They're not honored. They are insulted. They are disgusted. And as someone just said in the chat, will we even have allies moving forward? No, I don't think so. I think that as soon as you saw, if I'm a European leader, right? If I'm one of our allies, if I'm in NATO, and I saw that when Donald Trump announced that he was even going to run again, you better believe that I would have been calling for, and I hope that they did, an emergency meeting to figure out how we are going to now operate in the world without America on our side. Because they should have put that fucking plan together back in 2017. But everybody thought, much as I did, that Donald Trump was a blip. He wasn't actually going to come back to power because Americans are too smart for that. Apparently, I had too high of expectations for the American public. I didn't realize that they could easily be bought by a used car salesman. But here we are. So you have Don Jr., who was over in Greenland this week as a show of force, because you're sending that dodo bird anywhere. I literally, and the question that was asked by the anchor, how is annexing Greenland going to lower the cost of everyday items and products for the American people? How is this part of the plan to make America great again? Donald Trump just wants to build what? The world's largest and tackiest golf course in Greenland? What's the play here? But the fact that you have Republicans going on television and saying that this is a good idea. They're not even saying oh, well, he was kidding or it was a joke. No. They're going along with it. I cannot believe that we are here again. Genuinely. I am outdone. So from the fires in California to the desire to purchase or invade Greenland and Panama. What else is on the Republican agenda? Is it anything that the American people actually need? Like, what is happening? Maybe since nothing is going to be functioning at the federal level, maybe the states that are being run by red state governors, maybe they, have a plan. Maybe Republicans in the states have a plan for how they are going to make their state stronger and better. And you know what? Let's take a look at Idaho and see what they have done as their first legislative act in the new year. Oh, So Idaho legislature's first order of business, overturning same-sex marriage. Yes, that is their first order of business. Again, having nothing to do with what it is that they are providing to the people of the state of Ohio. Everything that they are about, that the Republican Party is about, is taking away. So we all know that this coming summer, right, will be the 10-year anniversary of the Supreme Court decision, Obergefell v. Hodges, that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide over the objections of states like Idaho. And here is what Representative Heather Scott, who is a sponsor of the bill, of this bullshit, has said, quote, "What this decision did is it took the right away from the state to make the decision on marriage laws. Traditionally, that's a state's decision." You know, what's always so fascinating to me is that it's always a state's decision when it is about how they can abuse states' rights to take power and rights away from people inside of their state. But when you have the reverse of what New York and California and other places do in order to provide rights and protect their citizens with their own gun laws, right? With their own net neutrality, then all of a sudden, you petition the Supreme Court to intervene because blue states apparently don't have states' rights. The only states that do have states' rights are red states. So this is a resolution that was introduced again as their first order of business in Idaho. With everything that we see going on, the Idaho legislator said, yeah, this is the one. Same-sex marriage. This is what we're going to go after. It is beyond obscene. But like I told my friends, and just, a little aside, I was one of the spokespeople, national spokespeople for marriage equality. I was one of the, I think, maybe the 10th same-sex couple to be married in Washington, D.C. I'm now divorced, side note. But I fought for marriage equality. And I knew that when Roe v. Wade was overturned, that this was coming next. That what was coming next was going to be the overturning of Obergefell. After 10 years, that they were going to, because Clarence Thomas all but said so. Alito all but said so. That they believed that there was an overreach in the Obergefell decision. So I tell my queer sisters and brothers, nibblings and siblings, get your paperwork in order. Because they are coming for same-sex marriage next. And this is just the first of a resolution that will be introduced. And then there'll be other pieces of legislation that are introduced. There'll be lawsuits that are introduced, and then it'll wind its way up to our 6-3 Supreme Court. And what do you think the 6-3 Supreme Court is going to do? There is not a thing that is precedent. There is not a thing that has been one and done that is not on the chopping block and up for grabs right now. And I titled this show and I said, America is on fire again. And I mean it literally and figuratively. I don't even know where to point the hose right now. That's how disoriented I feel. And I know that you all feel the same way. And this was part of Steve Bannon's plan when he said, flood the zone. Because at some point, the public becomes exhausted, overwhelmed, disoriented, disillusioned, and guess what? Hopeless. And when you have no hope, when you lose hope, that is the nail in the coffin. Because when you are hopeless, you have no power and no picture of how to make a future, your future, better. And so you acquiesce. You do your best to tread water and keep your head above the waves. And I have to remind us, and I have to remind you all as much as I remind myself, that they are coming locked and loaded because of how much progress we have made. They are coming locked and loaded because of how woke people actually are. That is the point, folks. Is that they are coming with everything that they have because, you have to realize these are the last gasps of white supremacy and patriarchy. These are the last gasps of a dying empire. Like I have said before, it does not mean that all of us are going to make it to the other side, but the decisions that we make about where we place our energy, what work it is that we decide to do, how we decide to organize, is going to set the stage for future generations to have success. Because we have been lied to when we have been told, oh, racism will die out. As people get, as people get older, they'll die out. Folks, as if racism is not passed down like a fucking artifact or a family heirloom. Racism is passed down through generations. So the only way to disrupt hate is to teach love. The only way to disrupt greed is to teach about community and sharing and shared responsibility. It doesn't just happen like osmosis. Do you understand? Like, it is something that has to be intentional. So I feel like when we've told ourselves, oh, this country will change, because those that are old and stuck in their way, they'll die out, and then the young people will be left. But folks, you have to understand that the only way to disrupt this kind of hate, greed, extraction is through education and community building. But you can't build if you're exhausted. You can't build if you are hopeless, because then you look to your left and to your right and you say, what's the point? That is the strategy that they are working on right now. That is where they have been successful. is so many people right now are looking around and saying, what's the point? Donald Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States. Half of America hates the other half of America. What's the point? If you believe that Donald Trump won, he won by only 1.4%, the slimmest margin in American modern history. It is not 50% of the country. It is 30% of the country, and 30% of the country has always been batshit crazy. But what they have been good at is creating apathy and hopelessness in the rest of us. And that is why 7 million people sat home. So I encourage you, as we move forward, trudge forward in this brave new world, inside of this thick, disgusting fuckery, that you take rest when you need rest, that you do not need to follow every single headline, that you do not need, right, to follow everything to show how woke you are, and then all of a sudden you're exhausted and you are of no service to yourself or anyone around you. If we are not prioritizing self-care and also in-person, in real life community building, they are winning. I've said it time and time again, figure out what your resistance looks like. Mine looks like turning on a microphone and trying to build community in a multitude of spaces. What does yours look like? Because with 12 days to go and I'm already here, I'm basically at the point where I need to eat sage. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it ain't enough. It's not enough smoke to cleanse my spirit every day. But there is someone who I thought hit the nail on the friggin' head this week. And that is parliamentary member in Canada, Elizabeth May. And y'all, Elizabeth is all of us, and Elizabeth has had it.
So no, sorry. And I really also take offense, sorry, Mr. Trump, took offense to your idea that Pierre Poilievre wasn't good enough to lead the Conservatives. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, he's great. He is the great one. He skates to where the puck is going. It's not going to MAGA. The puck is on a Canadian ice rink. And by the way, Mr. Trump, please, before making public pronouncements that Wayne Gretzky should run for prime minister, give yourself or get yourself a briefing on the nature of parliamentary democracy, a Westminster parliamentary system, and a constitutional monarchy where no one runs for prime minister. We have elections for members of parliament. We don't get to pick and choose among our billionaire friends for who gets a seat at the cabinet table. If they're not an elected member of parliament, well, Canadian system is different from that of the United States of America. I suggest that Mr. Trump find one of his grandchildren's school books and look at the year 1776, which may explain a few things to him about why our systems of government are different. I don't want to belittle Mr. Trump, but on the other hand, hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington, you've got geography in common with us. And not only that, we've already got a carbon trading system between California and Quebec. We've got some strong alliances on our west coast from British Columbia. There's been a lot of academic papers on the idea of Cascadia. So California, Governor Newsom, and Washington State, Jay Inslee, and newly elected Governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek. How about it? Want to put a referendum to your citizens? Because this is what you deal. Have we got a deal for you? This is what you get. Free health care. Universal free health care. No more one-year-olds who suddenly fall off the Medicaid list and their parents are in the news because they're trying to do a GoFundMe so they can get their daughter to a doctor. Universal free health care. And guess what? Those gun laws that your Congress is too afraid to pass because of the national gun lobby, we already got our strict gun laws. That's why we have the safest streets around the world. or at least in the United States, by the way, the most recent stats, 5.9 out of every 100,000 people is killed in a fatal gun incident versus 0.88 per 100,000 in Canada. That's because we have strict gun laws. California citizens, Oregon, Washington, safer streets. Here we already have good gun laws, and women have a right to an abortion under our universal health care system. But, we don't have to stop there. Donald, think about it. You could get rid of all these states that always vote Democrat.
She is the best salesperson for Canada, because after listening to her, Elizabeth May, I was like, can New York put up a referendum? I too would like free health care. I too would like safer gun laws. I too would like to live in a country that gives a fuck about climate change. The way that she read that man for filth and then made a pitch that has people, and Brandon Gill, Representative Brandon Gill from Texas, said that Panama and Greenland and Canada should be lucky, should be excited that Donald Trump is thinking about them. Why? So that their kids can be shot dead in their classrooms, so that they can die in another mega storm, so that what? They have to put up GoFundMes for their fucking health needs? So that they can die from microplastics that we allow corporations to put in food? What is it exactly that makes America great? Because I don't know anymore. But what I do know is that representatives in other nations like Elizabeth May have fucking had it. And again, folks, he's not president yet. Here's where I will end today. We must pace ourselves. We must pace ourselves because the road ahead, dear friends, is long and it is hard. The good news is we have each other. The good news is we know who and what the problem is. The good news is that I truly do believe that there are more of us than there are of them. And that sometimes maybe you do need to lose everything before you recognize how important it is to hold on to what matters to you most. America got too complacent. America got too comfortable, thinking that we can just elect these people and they're always going to have our best interests at heart. They do not. They have their pockets in mind, not the people. But if we are going to move this needle, pass this baton, we have got to pace ourselves. Know when to jump in, know when to jump out, know when to tap others in so that you can tap out. Rest is indeed a part of the resistance, but burnout is not. So, dear friends, pace yourselves because America is on fire again. Thank you so very much, dear friends, for joining the Danielle Moodie Show. I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, for our Thursday show, which is dedicated to a call to action. So this is when I talk at the end of the show and offer just some suggestions on how we can best utilize our energy and our time. And if you have it, your dollars to different organizations, causes, and people, but how we can feel like we are doing something other than passively shaking our finger and yelling at the screen every time a news alert comes through. As always, dear friends, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these incredibly dangerous times, dear friends, please stay safe. I will see you all tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. Be well.